So you're working with AfriKids at the moment on a campaign to give children in Ghana access to clean water, food and education.
Yep.
Tell us what that means for people in the UK. What do they need that we can help them with?
Yes. And also, I will also pick up on your original question as well about whether or not we should be helping people outside of the UK. So yes, I'm part of the AfriKids Time to Shine campaign. I'm super excited. It's a matched funding campaign with the UK government. So if you donate £1, the UK government will match you. And if you donate 5, they'll match you 5, and so therefore it's the equivalent of 10. So it's a really, really great initiative. And I've just got back from Ghana, and I have to say I'm blown away by the work that AfriKids is doing over there. So they work in the poorest part of the country, and what they do is they take a 360 approach. So they work with kids who come from some of the toughest conditions you can imagine, in terms of helping them in school, helping with programs that sort of amplify the education of these young people, helping kids, street kids whose families are too poor to send them to school, as a way of getting those children back in school, but also providing them with apprenticeships to be able to help support their families. Also working with children with disabilities, which is a huge problem in regions like that just don't have the capacity to deal with disability. And then also female empowerment. So I was part of a program working with a women's cooperative, but also with young girls and empowering them to know their rights. And I just want to add, in terms of the point you made of whether or not people in the UK should be giving abroad, 100%. Particularly now at a time where there is a lot of concern around immigration. What we have to understand is that actually when we empower countries, that a lot of the time the problems that they have were in part caused by us. We can never forget the complicated history Britain has with empire, and that actually a lot of the countries that we consider developing, part of the reason that they are in the situation they're in is because of the negative impact of empire. So the West cannot cut itself off from that truth. And actually what we're looking to do is to create a new framework where we empower these economies so that actually you don't have the problems of immigration, because actually if you're empowering those economies and we are creating civil society, and if we look at what's happened in China, where in a decade 350 million people were lifted out of poverty because of trade, because of the right way of doing things, we now don't have an issue where we have an influx of lots of Chinese immigrants, because actually their own economy is so strong. So actually, if you really are somebody that's concerned about immigration, not only is this the right thing to do, but also it's a smart thing to do. And for me, what I was so blown away by when I was in Ghana was just to see the potential, the untapped potential. And now so many children are going to school, and what that means for the country is just phenomenal. So this is a great thing to do, but also it is also a selfish thing to do if you're somebody that is worried about those issues.
June, this government, the UK government, match funding. I've not heard about that before. Is that a unique thing? Is it the first time that they're doing this?
Well, I don't know if it's the first time they're doing this, but it's this particular campaign. So there are a number of charities that the UK government has identified as doing really great development work. And obviously AfriKids is one of them. And so with AfriKids, how it works is the campaign runs until the end of March. So anything that anybody gives between now and March will be match funded. So we really need people to give now for it to have maximum impact.
And what do you say to people who would say that, well, I want to give some money to charity, but we know that there are cuts to women's AIDS refuges in the UK, social services in the UK have been cut, children's funding has been cut in the UK. I want to give my money closer to home.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't see why you wouldn't want to do both. At the end of the day, we are a global community, and actually, if you're somebody that has a giving heart, you want to alleviate suffering anywhere you can, regardless if it's in your own shores or abroad. And for me, I'm somebody that gives both here in the UK and obviously abroad as well.
Yeah. What you went out to Ghana to see some of the work AfriKids
I just
doing.
got back like 5 days ago, I think. Yeah.
What were some of the experiences that you had out there?
Oh, amazing. I mean, amazing. I'm still walking. And next time you all have to come with us because we're doing a big trip. So we want the badass women's hour women with us.
Sounds like a plan.
That sounds like a plan. And so one of the stories I think that really moved me, and I think your listeners will resonate with, is a story of two friends, Jennifer and Caroline. So Jennifer, sadly, or not sadly, but unfortunately got pregnant at the age of 14 and under quite tough circumstances. And so she dropped out of school because her family were too poor for her to continue with her education and also look after her child. Unfortunately, her friend, Caroline, was a youth ambassador for AfriKids, and she saw Jennifer at the water well and asked her, where she was, and Jennifer said, I can't come to school anymore because I've had the baby. And Caroline was adamant that there was no way she was going to let her friend drop out of school. So she went to petition Jennifer's parents. She then went to petition the head of their school to say, what are you going to do about this? And so AfriKids was able to provide support to Jennifer's parents so that they could help with childcare and get Jennifer back into school. I met Jennifer. I was so excited to meet her. She is now top of her class.
Wow.
Teaching me science. I was so embarrassed. I didn't know any of the phrases she was teaching me. And then on top of it, she was part of the county debate team that won. It's just amazing. And she wants to become a teacher herself. And these are the sorts of things that AfriKids does. It's very hands-on, and it's results-driven, which is why I'm so passionate about this charity.
Jean, what do you think about the kind of, the narrative that goes around the UK giving to African countries? So particularly, I remember, growing up with the Band-Aid and those kind of, that everything is terrible, very, very negative images. Do you think that's changing?
Yeah, and also, Ghana is a perfect example of this. Ghana is a burgeoning economy, and by and large, things are on the up for that country. And if you see at Christmas, every celebrity from Liam Payne to Naomi Campbell to Edward Enninful, you name it, they were all there because Ghana is the place to be. But like in the UK, you have serious poverty in certain parts of the country. So what happens in London is very different to what happens in parts of the north or Wales or outside of London. And that's the same with Ghana. And so what we have in the north is real levels of income inequality. And I think it's very important where Africa is concerned, and as particularly as somebody who is of African origin, to have a nuanced and balanced perspective of Africa. So we're not only seeing poverty. God, no, not at all. Actually, what I loved about this in this trip, and in fact it's going to be my topic on Thursday, is what I saw of these kids who, up until 2 years ago, before universal education was introduced in the country, many of these kids were not in school. If you see what's happened in such a short space of time in terms of the standard of education and how excited they are about being educated, we need to up our game in this country too, actually, so that our kids can compete with what children over there are learning. So these are children with nothing. These are children whose parents are on $2 a day, but they are so committed to getting an education. And I think if you're somebody that can empower a child to do that, why wouldn't you?
Brilliant. Jean Sarpong, thank you so much for joining us. If people want to get involved in the campaign, where should they be looking?
Kids.org, which is AFRI kids.org, and donate whatever you can. As I said, whatever you give will be matched funded by the UK government. And then obviously, if you're a British citizen, we're also eligible for gift aid, which maximises it. So really, between now and March, we so need whatever anybody can give.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Jean.
Thanks,
Jean Sarpong,
Thank
talking about the brilliant campaign currently running by AfriKids and why we should all be involved in it and why we should